Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
In many ways, it's fulfilling the work that everybody has done. I mean, taking on the responsibility was something that it was pretty daunting for me to do that with my full-time day job. And but the amazing team behind Davos really assisted with me and helped me out. I have an amazing co-chair. And importantly, though, I think everybody was in need of having a conversation. We, as a board, we talked about that we wanted to move the conversation and have a much more open, robust conversation. Yeah. And that's how we came up with the spirit of dialogue as the foundation of today. But I think the confluence of so many things going on globally, I think, we were able to be at the right moment in the right spot. And importantly, let me start out with the foundational issues. I mean, the 55 years of Klaus Schwab was a foundation of what we were being able to build upon. But no place other than the World Economic Forum in Davos has the combination of world leaders, and we had 84. I think the only other place where you have 84 world leaders in one place is at the UN in New York. But we had over 800 CEOs and share. We had civil society. We had so many different people here. And I think it was that conversation, that spirit that really made it.
I guess it was touch and go because at times people were bracing for a belligerent speech from President Trump. So I don't know how you look at geopolitics and geoeconomics, given what we've learned so far.
I think because of all that everybody wanted to hear, I think Tuesday was just as important. The conversations we had with Europeans, with Mark Carney, with Emmanuel Macron, they were great, honest, open conversations. I think Mark Carney delivered an incredible conversation. I may not have agreed with everything he said. That's not what we're here for. We're here to have that conversation. But I really do believe the openness of those conversations on Tuesday led obviously to a large conversation with the President of the United States yesterday, and then we had the peace initiative this morning. But my conversation even Wednesday morning with Jensen on the role of NVIDIA and what does that mean for all of AI, and to me, I learned a lot in that conversation.
Do you worry about AI bubbles? I mean, this is the thing that worries the markets. If you put your BlackRock hat on for a second,
yes, yeah.
It's AI and it's geopolitics. Which one's more uncertain?
I don't think there's any uncertainty about AI. There's no question. Hundreds of billions of dollars is needed to build this out. The CapEx is going to drive more global growth. How that is going to be dispersed and where it's going to be really dependent on each and every government. But I sincerely believe there is no bubble in the AI space. That being said, like in everything else in capitalism, there's going to be some big failures. Okay, we always see a rotation, and there's going to be some huge winners and some losers. But do I believe the needed capital to build out AI is one of the great opportunities for the world to come? When you think about the hundreds of billions of dollars of infrastructure that's necessary, countries are going to have to rebuild their grids. We're going to have to source new powers of energy. Last night at a dinner, we had an amazing conversation on how AI is going to change science and how it's going to improve human lives in terms of medicine. But importantly, there's a strong foundational belief that AI is going to accelerate new sources of power. And if we could have cheap sources of power, abundant cheap sources of power, maybe things that we can't even think of today through AI, imagine how that could lift the rest of the world.
You announced a big, partnership with Microsoft that you've raised $12.5 billion as part of this, partnership to bankroll data centers.
Yes.
Like, when are you hitting 30 million?
30 billion, yeah.
30 billion. When's that coming?
Well, we announced 12.5. We're actively raising more money. We did already make an acquisition in Aligned Data Centers. The total enterprise value was $40 billion. But not only is Microsoft our partners, MGX of Abu Dhabi, NVIDIA is one of our partners, xAI is one of our partners. And so we have an incredible partnership group in building this out. And And we are seeing more and more opportunity working alongside some of the best hyperscalers. And so we see nothing but opportunity, and that, but we have to be judicious and we have to be thoughtful about it. But I'm very encouraged about what AI can do for humanity.
I mean, the way we've covered World Economic Forum is also trying to figure out whether there was a move away from U.S. assets. Do you see that at all, or is it a conversation that you had with the Trump administration?
So if I go back to early Davos last year, I would say the average world investor had an unbelievable overallocation in dollar-based assets. And I think over the course of last year, we saw probably a 5% reallocation. And that's fine. I mean, when your liability is another currency and you're investing in dollar, I mean, the value of the dollar is an important consideration in your total return. Could there be more reallocation of the dollar? I think the U.S., because of where we are at AI and the amount of capital that's being spent, I think we have the U.S. economy is really growing fast. I mean, we estimate it'll be over 5%, in the first quarter. So we are, the key is now, don't just focus on GDP, because GDP is heavily oriented to all the CapEx on AI and technology. The key is in that economic condition, are we creating enough great jobs? And so to me, that is what what we need to be focused on, not just GDP anymore, because GDP is going to be powerful. And that's one of the reasons why I am still, I do believe the United States is one of the great places to invest, and it will remain to be one of the great places to invest. But having a diversification, that we've seen a little bit here and there, I'm very relaxed about it. I think there's too much noise about that.
Okay. What have you learned here in Davos? I mean, you've spoken to everyone. Are people nervous about the relationship between the US and the EU? Is it a little bit better than it was? What do we do with China? What's been the most surprising conversation you've had?
How people needed to be here to have a conversation. I think people came here with a lot of trepidation. I think they came here with a lot of fears. And I do believe we're going to be leaving Davos with less geopolitical fears. I believe we have, if there can be peace in Ukraine, which I'm heavily involved in, and BlackRock's heavily involved in working on the Prosperity Fund. I mean, think about that. If we could have that, that's the foundation of a more global economic growth. When you think about when we entered 2025, where we had a war in Gaza, we had all these different skirmishes, and we may be more nervous and focusing on all these issues. But the reality, the world is becoming safer, not less safe, in my mind. And the last thing I want to say related to volatility, which, if you look at the 10-year Treasury on January 1st, 2025, April 1st, and October 1st, and then January 1st this year, if you're looking at using those 4 points of data at the 10-year Treasury moved 3 basis points. Okay, yes, we've had a lot of volatility.
There's been a lot of volatility.
But my point is, the way I want to talk about that, when you look at those wider points, there's been no volatility. And the key and the message that we need to be telling people who are watching, it's not about the moment, it's not about the noise. I mean, it is about long-term investing. When I think back, if you invested $1 in the S&P on January 1st, 2000, and a year later, you had a 30% downdraft because of the dot-com bust. But over that 25 years, you made over an 8% compounded return, better than almost any other investment again. I think there's just not enough narrative, not enough conversation about, we got to just walk away from the noise. And if you believe in that we can be better, if you believe that your government, your economy is going to grow, you need to grow with it. I said something in one of my meetings earlier today, I don't remember which one now, and this one very powerful person in AI came up to me yesterday and he said, "You're right." And what I said was, we need to make sure if this AI transformation is real, I think we need to make a responsibility getting more people to be investing alongside of it, not watching. And I always say, if you believe in your country, why aren't you investing with your country? And the best way of investing is in a broad index in your country. And I think one of the foundational problems of Europe has been the underinvestment, the lack of capital markets in Europe. When you think about the success in the last 24 months in Japan, it started when the then Prime Minister Kishida doubled the size of the NISA account, which is the self-directed retirement account.
Larry, does that change after the threats and warnings from President Trump for Europe? Is this the time where they focus on capital markets?
I heard Christine Lagarde talk about Europe needs a capital markets, a unified capital markets. I think that's an important message for Europe. I think President Trump's prompting Europe to take more responsibility in defense and NATO. All these things are really wonderful. I think I actually am bullish on Europe because I'm starting to see Europe doing these long-term things to build vitality for the future.
Larry, are you moving west to Detroit?
There has never been a formal conversation or a conversation at the board level or at the governance committee about any movement of Davos. There has been a broad conversation. How can we bring the vitality of the World Economic Forum in Davos to other locations? I will be in Istanbul with the World Economic Forum this spring in Istanbul. There is a spring World Economic Forum now in Jeddah in April. And so we need to have this foundation of conversation, not just here in Switzerland, but we need to have it in other locations. And to me, that is going to be the essence of having these things, having more deliberate conversations. And it doesn't have to always be in Switzerland. But Davos is Davos. It is a great town. The weather is magnificent. The hospitality of the Swiss government has been amazing. I think the having this Congress Center has really allowed us to have, intimate conversations, brilliant conversations, and importantly, open conversations.